Hey, it's Jess. Welcome back. Today I'm here with another Way Back Wednesday where I will be talking about all the books that I read in March of 2021. Looking at my Goodreads, I read a total of 5 books this month, and all of them were new, none of them were rereads. The first book I read was The Burning Maze, which is The Trials of Apollo number 3 by Rick Riordan. I've talked about this series a lot. I love Percy Jackson. In this series, The Trials of Apollo, Apollo has been turned into a human by Zeus, and he must complete 5 trials, which is to restore 5 oracles to get back to being a god. And so he fell to New York. His name is Lester now. They were in Camp Half-Blood. They were in Indianapolis. And now they travel to Lester and some of his friends. His name's Lester now. Apollo's name is Lester now. They travel to the desert and go through a burning maze, which is why it's called The Burning Maze. I really liked this book. I said that all of these are new, but I think I can't remember if I had read this book before or not. I think I read some of the Trials of Apollo, and then I know that I never finished it, but I can't remember if I've read this book once or twice. But anyway, I really liked this one. I think so far this was my favorite. I love the characters. I love the character development of Apollo / Lester. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I am planning on rereading The Trials of Apollo this year since I never finished the last one, and I can't wait to read this one again. The next book I read was The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock. And I'm pretty sure the reason I read this book is because Nightmare Maven here on YouTube, she has a monthly book club, and I think that this was the book that she had picked for like either March or April, and I saw it at the library, and that's why I picked it up. There is also a movie based on this book. I have never seen the movie. I know Robert Pattinson is in it, and maybe Tom Holland, but I could be making that up. I just remember I know for sure Robert Pattinson is in this book. And I don't even know how to describe this book. You're following several different groups of people. So there's a husband and his wife gets cancer, so he's trying to cure her cancer. You have a husband and wife who are serial killers who go on a killing spree. You have this really weird guy who's like a church pastor and his friend that is in a wheelchair, and they go around scamming people. And then you also have the son of the first couple. And so you're following all of them like through several years, like 15 years, right after World War II up until the 1960s. And yeah, I don't even really know what happens in this book. I remember reading it. I didn't love it. And sometimes I think about it and I'm like, what was that book? Oh yeah. Oh, I read that, but I don't care about reading it again. And again, I don't even know what happened in this book. I am interested in watching the movie. Maybe I'll do that soon. Just to see. I've seen some clips from it. But I don't know. It was a book I read, and that's about all I have left to say about it. The next book I read was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and around this time, I remember is really when I got into BookTube and started watching a lot of book YouTubers. In the past, I watched a lot of like beauty and homemaking and honestly like a lot of horror review channels, but I was watching a lot of BookTube. And everyone was talking about Six of Crows. So I picked it up and I tried to read it and I had no idea what was happening. So I stopped it. And then later this month, I picked it up again and basically just like soldiered through and ended up really, really liking this book. Here's the thing. It is part of the Grishaverse, which is what Shadow and Bone, that trilogy, is in. I didn't know that when I picked this book up, and so it's explaining all of the magic system at the very beginning of Six of Crows, and I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense. I don't get what's happening at all, and how does this have to do with what's going on now? But I kept reading the second time, and I really, really liked it. It ended on kind of a cliffhanger, but I never picked up Crooked Kingdom, which is the second one. I did go back and read Shadow and Bone and those 3 books, so you'll hear about those in a future video. But I just remember I really liked Six of Crows. You are following Kaz Brecker, and he is like the head of this group of thieves and kind of like orphans, and they are going on a heist to this like island to steal this like super highly magical thing. And so you get to know all the people that are in the group. You get to know a little bit of the backstory of Kaz and the characters, and I really enjoyed it. I would like to go back and reread it because I do eventually want to read Crooked Kingdom and kind of finish up this duology. I don't know why I never picked up the second one, because that's my life. I'm sure you're used to hearing in videos by now that I very often start things and then never finish them. That's a bad habit I'm trying to break. I can't say that I'm going to be able to break it because I've been trying to break it for years, but I would like to go back to read Six of Crows and then finish up Crooked Kingdom. But I highly, highly recommend this book, but I also highly recommend that you at least like watch Shadow and Bone, or which not really because it's not a good adaptation, or read the Shadow and Bone trilogy before you try to read Six of Crows. Otherwise you may be super confused like I was. The next book I read was Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This is the sequel to Ready Player 1. In this book, you are still following Wade Watts, who was our protagonist in the first book. He has won the quest for owning the Oasis. James Halliday is who created Oasis. He is now the owner, but he finds this other invention in James Halliday's like mansion that makes the Oasis even more immersive, but also more addictive. And he pushes that out, even though his friends are like, don't do that. Obviously, Halliday didn't put that out there because he didn't want it out there, but Wade doesn't listen to them because he's like, I won this thing. You know, you can't tell me what to do. I do what I want. He didn't really like say that, but that's really how I felt his character was in this book. And so then there's like another rival company that's trying to take over the Oasis or something. I don't remember. I just remember reading it and I felt like it felt kind of like a cash grab. It was very unnecessary. I love Ready Player One. I love the way it wrapped up. I didn't want anything else in this universe. But then Ernest Cline wrote this second book, and I mean, Wade wasn't always my favorite character anyway, but he just really got ruined in this book. I really, really disliked him. And I feel like all the character work that he did with all the characters in the first book just like kind of got rewritten and ruined. And I don't know. If you haven't read this book, I don't really recommend it. I would say you're good sticking with just the first one because I think it's a great story. I think it has a great ending, and I think that the sequel was unnecessary. And I don't want to read it again. The last book I read was Here and Gone by Halen Beck. This is a book that I had received I was in a book club, and we had done a book exchange at Christmas, and this is the book that I ended up with. I was trying to read books off of my shelf to kind of get my, physical TBR down, and so I decided to pick this one up because I'd heard really good things about it. From my friend who gave it to me. I've actually never heard about this book before. I've never heard anyone talk about this book. But I have another friend who borrowed it and read it, and she really liked it. In this book, you are following Audra and her 2 children, and they are fleeing from Audra's husband. They just get in the car and they drive. and they get stopped in this small town, and Audra gets like pulled out of the car and has to go talk to the officer. And I can't remember if she like gets put in jail then, but at one point she gets back to her car and her children are missing. And she's like, "Where are my children?" And all the police officers are like, "What are you talking about? You don't have any children. There were no children in your car. It was just you." And she's like, "I'm sorry, what?" As any mother would be. And at the same time, her husband is across the country claiming that his kids have been kidnapped and that they're missing. And so you're following Audra trying to figure out where her children are, still trying to evade her husband. And I don't think you get like point of views from the children, but it's a dark book. It is a dark mystery thriller, and it's not extreme horror, but parts of it go down that rabbit hole where, like, when I read some extreme horror books, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of Here and Gone. I don't even know where my copy of it is anymore. I would like to read it again. I think about this book a lot. I really enjoy it. Again, haven't heard anyone talk about it. Decided to just pick it up because my friend gave it to me, and I really enjoyed it and really, really recommend it. Those are the 5 books that I read in March of 2021. It was a pretty good reading month. I enjoyed most of what I read. Again, Ready Player 2, take it or leave it, but I'd be fine. You'd be fine if you just left it. But the rest of the books, good, solid, strong books. Would like to read almost all of them again. Now I want to know, have you read any of these books? What did you think? All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.